hold on. We are, oh, finally. Hey. Hey. We have a very, very dear friend of mine. This is my very dear friend, Adam. In case you ever wonder what the first man on the planet Adam looked like, well, he came back from the... And Adam is from Los Angeles, and thank God lives in Israel, your future home. So this way, when you arrive, you'll already have another friend here in the Holy Land to welcome you back. You know, you know, we love you very much, but you are very, very slow. It's been thousands of years for you to come back to Israel. Like, what's with you guys? Hello, wake up.
Well, we fell farther and deeper than every other member of Israel. We ran too far away.
Well, long... It's very nice to see all of you again, and thank you for your... Thank you for your patience. You know, it's been a long process getting better, but God willing, we will overcome. So we will get there. So listen,
Amen.
Amen. In the meantime, I've been speaking to Rabbi Cohen, and I know what's going on there, and Rabbi Noam, and I know what's going on there. So, you know, as you say, keep moving forward. So we keep moving forward. God willing. All right. So we don't have time to waste. Let's talk. I know that we normally go over Kriya Shema, and if you remember the last time we met, I think it was 3 years ago, or that's what it feels like. We were talking about a strange sentence in the Shema Yisrael prayer, where God cautions us not to go after our hearts and our eyes. And we said that that's seemingly wrong. It should say, don't go after your eyes and then your heart, because first your eye sees something and then your heart wants it. So we asked the question, why does it say the heart first and not the eyes? And today's class is going to take that idea to a new level and tie it into Purim. If I had to give a name or a title to the class today, I would say the name of this class is Happiness, Joy is a Decision. Sometimes we think of happiness as a feeling. You know, you're walking along, boom, all of a sudden you feel happy, or something happens and it's like a wave that comes over you and you feel happy because of something outside of you which happens to you. But if your happiness is always depending on something outside of you making you happy, then you do not own happiness. You are a prisoner to the external experience. But if you can be the master of your own happiness, then you can be happy no matter what. And once you can be happy no matter what, you're free. You have your life. You know, there's a cartoon, one of my favorite cartoonists. I don't think he made it to Nigeria though, but it was an American named Gary Larson, Far Side, if you ever want to Google it. And one of his themes in his cartoons he would draw pictures in hell. And he would have like these really 12-foot tall devils, and they would be standing on the side. And then you had all the little human beings in hell. And one of my favorite one were these two big devils standing on the side. And in front of them were all of these people with these wheelbarrows with huge rocks on them. And they're pushing and they're sweating and they're suffering. And in the middle is this one little guy with the same wheelbarrow, with the same big rocks, and he's happy and he's whistling. And one devil is looking at the other, and they're looking at the happy guy. He says, I don't think we're getting through to him. But that's the whole point. You can own your happiness. And when you own your happiness, then nothing, even if you're walking through hell, as King David said, Gam ki ele begetzo movet lo ira, whoa, and we lost them, strike one. Whoop. Whoop. Whoop.
Oh, bro, they're gone. You lost them. You lost them.
This happens. Ola bi, ola ba, life goes
What
on.
a group, dude.
Oh, they're the holiest. They're
Dude.
They're the holiest. They're so sweet. They're so,
Dude.
they're mamish, making their way back to Kodesh Baruch Hu, and don't get in the way.
Like, why?
Listen, if you listen to these people talk about their love of Hashem and all they want to do is walk barefoot in Yerushalayim, I mean, we should only have such yearning and dvekas. They're the Eva. You know the word Eva? Ava? Passion?
Really?
Yeah, you know the word passion? Ava? Aleph, Vav, Hey? Oh, we're back. We're back.
Yay.
All right. Woo! Anyhow, so that's the meaning of all of life. I'm just kidding. I was saying that because I knew you missed a part of it because you lost. So anyhow, as we were trying to say, so the little guy with a wheelbarrow whistling in hell, the angels are looking, I mean, the devils are looking to him and say, hey, I think this guy, how can he be happy? We're not getting through to him. And that's exactly what King David said. Gam ki ele begetzo movet lo irara. Even though I walk through the valley of death, I will not be afraid. Because when a person does not depend on external stimuli to make them happy, but can create happiness from inside of yourself, that is freedom. You own your life. There was a very famous story of a Jew in Europe who was a very, very poor man. And all year long, he would save every little penny to buy an etrog, the fruit that we use on the holiday of Sukkot. And when he came home with it, his wife said, we have no money in the house to buy food. And he said, I know. However, whatever money we had, I bought the etrog. And she was crazy with anger. How? We don't even have, we can't even feed the children. And you took the money to buy that, to use it on the holiday of Sukkot? And she was so angry, she grabbed it from him and she bit it. And if you bite the etrog on Sukkot, you cannot use it. It becomes disqualified. So now they had no money for food, and he also didn't even have the fruit for the holiday. And what did he do? Did he get angry back at his wife? God forbid. he started to dance. And he danced with incredible joy. And he said, you know, you may have taken away my etrog for Sukkot, but I will not let you take away my joy. So if you think of happiness and joy as something that you can own inside of yourself, no matter what is going around you, you become a different person. I'll tell you a story from the Talmud. One of the greatest scholars in Jewish history was a man known as Hillel. Hillel was so poor that every day he would chop wood to make one coin. And he took the coin and he would break it in half, and half of it he gave to his wife for food, and the other half, unlike you, where you allow, thank God, people to come into your Beit Midrash for free, in his Beit Midrash, you could not come in for free. You had to pay. So one day, he had no money to pay. And not only did he have no money, what he did was he climbed up the side of the Beit Midrash, and the roof had a glass roof, and he lied on the glass roof to listen to the Torah that they were learning in the Beit Midrash. But what happened was it snowed, and it snowed so much it froze him on the roof. And when they saw that there was a body, they went up and they saved him and they brought him back to life. This is Hillel. Okay. Hillel, however, never lost his joy. So the story in the Talmud says there were two men, they made a bet that they could make Hillel angry. And what they did is they came and they knocked on his door. One of them came and knocked on the door on Friday as Shabbat was getting close. Everything, you know, before Shabbat, crazy, getting food, getting this, getting that. And all of a sudden, this man knocks on the door and he starts to ask the rabbi the stupidest questions you could ever imagine. None of them were important, and none of them were urgent, and none of them had to be answered on Friday. But the rabbi didn't say anything bad. He listened, he gave the man answers, and then the man came back again and again and again, and he could never get Hillel angry until the man broke down and started to cry and told him the story of how they made a bet that he could make him angry. And of course, he lost the bet. Because happiness, anger, these are things that should not be a result of what happens to you. They should be the result of the decision that you make. This is why we come to the holiday now next week called Purim. Now, I'm sure from your other teachers, you have already learned a little bit, I hope, about Purim.
Yes.
Good. And they probably taught you where the name Purim comes from the word pur, which is Persian for a lottery. Does this sound familiar about how he tried to pick, using black magic, what day to kill the Jews? All right, doesn't matter. I have a different definition of the word Purim. I think the word Purim comes because on the holiday you're supposed to get drunk. So therefore, you have to keep pouring them all day long. Purim, Purim, Purim. That's where it comes from. It's the only day in the Jewish calendar where God said, and thou shalt get smashed. However, the question is, how do you drink as a Jew? I grew up around a lot of Irish Catholics in New York. Most of my friends were Irish Catholics. I don't know if you know any Irish Catholics. They're really even more intense than the Italian Catholics. And the Irish Catholics, the Irish, can drink like nobody's business. But a lot of times it got violent. Somebody would suddenly take a bottle and break it over another person's head. And then the next thing you knew, everybody's punching everybody, or everybody's trying to swim away because everyone's throwing up, and it's not a nice thing. However, that's not what we do. When we get drunk, it's not about that. When we get drunk, it's about showing how much we love God. It's about showing how much we love each other. It's about allowing the walls that separate us all year long to just wash away. Our sages teach us this on a very mystical way. They say, Nichnas yayin yotze sod, which means when the wine goes in, the secrets come out. Now, on a simple level, if you're a clever businessman or businesswoman, excuse me, and you want to do a good deal, you always want to get your other person to invite them to lunch and make sure they get a little drunk. Because once they get a little drunk, then all the secrets are going to come out and you're going to hear them and you're going to do a much better business deal. But that's not what this is all about. That you want your secrets to come out. You want your secrets to come out about how happy you are for the gift of life, how happy you are to be Igbo, how happy you are to be Jubu, how happy you are just to be Boo, right? That's all these things are happiness. And that's why it says on Purim, you have to reach a level bisimcha, of a level with joy. Now the letters bisimcha spell the same word as makshava, which means thought. So the joy is attached to thought. That's why the root word for joy in Hebrew is the same word in Hebrew as the brain, moach. So therefore, when a person is drinking on Purim, they are doing it to actually allow their real inner feelings of their pure soul to come out. When you come to a Torah table and you drink and get drunk, instead of, God forbid, violence, you will see people jump up from the table and dance with each other. And you will hear some of the deepest, deepest, deepest wisdom, because the angels are all around the table and they begin to speak through the people who are sitting at the table. And the idea of becoming drunk is also a feeling of being helpless. I probably shouldn't do this, but you know me well enough that as soon as I say I shouldn't do it, I'll do it. So I could just tell you a little story from one of my lives. We used to, and when we went to yeshiva, we used to get so drunk that we would never find our way home. So one year, what they did is they would take a big piece of paper and they wrote on it Gedalia, and they wrote on it my address, and they wrote on it the taxi money will be reimbursed. And they stuck it on the back of my shirt. So whoever found me lying in the street drunk would be able to like lift me up, throw me into a taxi, give him the address from the piece of paper on my back, and would get me home, which then I would probably wake up 2 days later. But the idea is, however, that when a person becomes really drunk, they can feel helpless. Or they might be stupid and think they're not helpless and do something really stupid like drive, or try to get into a fight with somebody who's not drunk and then wind up how stupid that was. But the real idea is that when you get drunk, your legs don't work anymore. You feel helpless. But if you get a holy drunk, then you're helpless, makes you realize that even when you're not drunk, you're also helpless. You're always helpless. It's just that God makes you feel that you're not, but you are. And now, suddenly on one day of the year on Purim, you can realize that, yeah, I'm totally helpless. I can't do anything. And the only reason anything gets done is because of how much God takes care of me and you. That's part of this holy day. That's why this is Purim, according to some opinions, is the holiest day of the Jewish year. Watch. If you ask somebody, what would you think is the holiest day? They might tell you Yom Kippur, Yom Kippurim. And then you would say back, really? What does that mean? Yom is day. Ki means like. Ki Purim. Yom Kippurim is a day which is only like Purim. Think about that. The holiest day of the year, Yom Kippur, Yom Kippurim, is only focusing and pushing us to the day of Purim. Why is that? What's the connection between Yom Kippurim and Purim? Yom Kippurim, we don't eat, we don't drink, we try to leave our physical bodies and become like angels. On Yom Kippurim, we do everything we can be to be angels. On Purim, we have to eat, we have to drink, we have to get drunk, we put on costumes. On Yom Kippur, we wear very holy clothing. On Purim, we dress up like clowns or pirates or who knows what. So how could the holy day of Yom Kippur only be an arrow pointing us to Purim? So the answer is a very, very Jewish answer. If you've ever had or have ever seen pictures of holy people, especially in the Christian world, you'll always notice that the holy person has above their head what's called a halo, like a little circle of light over their head. I'm sure you've seen that. Okay. Our halo is not over the head, it's in the head. When Musa came down from Mount Sinai, his face had so much light, people could not look at him. He had to cover his face. The light was not up here, the light was in here. What's the difference? Because for many people in the world, and this is okay, but you have to be aware of the difference. For many people in the world, to be holy is to be removed from the physical. So therefore, the holiness sits above them. For Jews, to be holy is in the physical. It's inside of you. It says, because my friend who's here today, it says when Adam was first created by God, he didn't have skin. He had light. And the light that came out of Adam was so strong that even at the bottom of his feet, it says that the light from his feet was stronger than the sun. Do you imagine what that would look like? So when a person is a holy person as a Jew, it means that it's inside their body. So therefore, on Yom Kippur, to be like an angel is a very nice thing. It's wonderful. But it's even greater to be like a human being. To be a holy human being is greater than to be a holy angel. To be able to eat food with holiness, to be able to drink and even get drunk and still remain holy. This is a tremendous, tremendous idea. And so therefore, what it does, as I said before, the drunkenness removes the barriers between us and God and between each other. We'll take it to the next level. Why on Purim do kids or children or all people put on costumes? They put on masks. I mean, most of us over here in Israel have been wearing a mask for almost a year now, but they put on masks, they put on costumes. Why? Well, the simple reason is if you read the story of Purim, you know there was a big party. the king of the world, right? We don't have such an idea. Imagine like one power, the Persian Empire, controlled the entire world, over 100 different nations. It would control the world. And the king of the world, Ahasuerus, had a party that lasted for 5 months. I can't go over to somebody's house for 5 hours. Imagine going to a party for 5 months. That's how long the party was that he had. And of course, at that party, they wore all kinds of costumes and so on. But let's take a deeper look and let's watch something very interesting. In Hebrew, you have 2 different words for clothing. One word is called malbush, right? Or livush. Livush is one word for wearing clothes. However, it is also connected to another word in Hebrew, which means to be embarrassed. Because when Adam and Eve were created, they were naked. They had no clothing on in the Garden of Eden. And it was only after everything went wrong that they noticed that they were naked, and they made clothing to cover themselves. But it wasn't that they didn't notice this before. They weren't stupid by any imagination. So why all of a sudden, after everything went wrong, why all of a sudden was it no longer okay to be naked? Why did they have to put on clothing? Because they were embarrassed. And the answer is because the divine light that was shining from out of their body was no longer there. The word for light in Hebrew is spelt with an aleph as the word or. But the same word spelt with an ayin as or means skin. The skin was no longer light. It's like the light had become dim, and they were embarrassed because they were no longer radiating their light. They covered themselves with garments. Let's look at another word. The other major word in Hebrew for clothing is called a beged. Beged in Hebrew comes from the same word, which means boged. A boged is somebody who rebels. Why would clothing be called rebellion? Well, let's take a look at the word. How do you spell, now that you are all fluent in Hebrew from your Hebrew classes, how do you spell the word beged in Hebrew? It's bet, gimel, daled. It's 3 of the first 4 letters of the Hebrew alphabet. So what letter is missing? It's the aleph. The aleph, which is the first letter, represents God. So the clothing, bet, gimel, daled, hides God. That's why it is a rebel. It's a rebellion because God becomes hidden. But the Zohar teaches us that God also became hidden. One of the ways that creation is described is that God took a talus made out of pure light and wrapped himself, metaphorically speaking, in this light, and he became hidden. That's why the word for world in Hebrew, olam, is connected to the word alam, which means hidden. Life in this world is trying to find God. That's why these things are hidden. Now, here's an interesting, amazing thing. Watch this. Sometimes you can only reveal something by hiding it. In other words, you would think, I would think, we would think that by revealing something, it's exposing it. But actually, it works the other way. You can hide something, and by hiding it, that's the only way you can see it. And let's see how that works. If you see somebody wearing no clothing, okay, first of all, hopefully you feel very sorry for them and give them clothing. It's a very big mitzvah to always give clothing to somebody, doesn't matter if they are Jewish or not, always give clothing to people who do not have clothing. But when you see them with no clothing, you don't know anything about them other than they have no clothes. But when you see somebody wearing clothing, you learn a lot about the person who is inside. For example, that guy's wearing a hat. That guy's wearing a white hat. That guy's wearing a yarmulke. That lady's wearing a scarf. That gentleman's wearing a colorful hat. That one's wearing this kind of a color shirt. This one's dressing like this. Because when you pick your clothes, your clothing is being picked from inside your mind and soul. But when you look at somebody, you cannot see inside their mind or in their soul. So ironically, the very clothing which is hiding their body is also the very clothing that's just telling me something about what's deep inside of who this person is. It's revealing while hiding. This is the whole secret of Purim. Purim is called the Megillah. Megillah simply means a kind of a parchment. A Megillah is a cloth which has holy writing on it. And it's known as the Megillah Esther, because Esther was her name. But the word Megillah Esther also means Megale Nistar. It means it reveals. Megale is to reveal. Esther is hidden. So the whole story of Megillah Esther is revealing something which is hidden. And this is hinted at in the idea that the book of Esther is the only book in the Bible where God's name is not written. Why? Because the whole miracle of the story of Esther is that it reveals God in the regular world that we live. The Torah reveals God in the most obvious way, beginning with the plagues in Egypt, beginning with the splitting of the sea, beginning with the revelation at Mount Sinai, beginning with bread falling out of heaven, etc., etc., etc. That revelation of God is obvious, and clearly that causes great trembling. But what about when you see God without seeing God at all? What happens when you see an unbelievable series of miracle after miracle after miracle, which is where the entire Jewish people were going to be killed, just like with the Nazis, and one day all around the world. And not only did they not get killed, they even had the opportunity to be able to destroy or weaken their own enemy, and their leader, Mordechai, rise to become the number 2 most powerful person in the world. Who would have thought? Who would have thought in the middle of World War II that just a few years later, I would be sitting here from New York and Jerusalem, able to talk Torah with you over a computer? No one could have thought that. Only a Kodesh Baruch Hu, only God, working within the miracle of all of the things that happen. This makes the Megillah Esther the great revelation of seeing God. And that's our challenge. In our own life, we don't necessarily see the miracles happening like happened on Passover or in the Bible. But we do see these amazing miracles in our lives. And therefore, we have to be able to find God in that. Okay, I have one more thing I want to share. But before I do, I know we're having a lot of technical problems. I need to know that you're actually there, because I need to show you something on the screen.
We are here and we are hearing you. We are hearing you very well. We are recording.
Okay, are you seeing me though? Are you able to see me?
We're seeing you clearly and we are recording.
All right, good, no problem, because you guys are like, okay, because you're frozen. As long as you can see me, I would like to show you something that I hope I'm able to teach this idea correctly. But if I can, I promise you that you may fall off your chair. But I think you'll flip out. Give me 1 second. I just happen to have it over here. Okay. You know, next time you should put seatbelts on your chairs there. Okay, hold on. Here we go. Ah, okay. Hold on. I'll do just try a different face. Okay, good. This one's better. All right. Now, in the story of Purim, if you don't have it, tell me and I'll send you a PDF. It's really, really, really worth reading. It's not that long. This coming Friday, the whole world will be reading it. You should be reading it. In fact, you know, I'll tell you a story of this. I'll tell you a story before the story I was going to tell you. I don't like to mention names of fame. Oh, there you are. I don't like to mention the names of famous people. I know there are a lot of people who like to do that. Oh, I know so-and-so. I know so-and-so. We call that dropping names. And one of my boys, who my buddy here, Adam, knows, one of my boys, when he was a little boy, I was talking to somebody. And this person was also from Los Angeles. I can't say his name because Adam might know him. And he was trying to show off by mentioning all these very wealthy, powerful people that he knew, dropping names. And my son, I think he was maybe 15, he went over right there in front of us. He said, "Excuse me." He bends down and he picks something up off the ground. And he says to the man, "Oh, I'm sorry, I think you dropped this name." You know, like, of course there was nothing there, but so I don't want to drop any names, but I will just tell you, I was at a place, a film studio in California, to be as vague as I can be, probably one of the most famous film studios in the world, or at least it was before Corona. And I was with the head guy, very, very wonderful, wonderful man. And it was about a week before Purim, and he knew that I was a religious Jew. And he said to me, in a nice way, he said to me, "Tell me something a little bit about Purim before you leave." And I thought that was very nice. And I wasn't so nice, unfortunately. I regret it. I was a bit of a New York jerk, but I was. And so I said to him, "Okay, I'll tell you something about Purim. Guess what? In 1 week, Jews, Igboos, all around the world, from Australia to Alaska to Brazil to Moscow, including, of course, Israel, will all come together and they will read the story of Esther. And they've been doing this for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. And guess what? If I said to anybody in the world, even my friends in Nigeria, the names of your movies, they would all know those names. Your movies are so well known. You could go to Pakistan, you could go to Peru, you could go anywhere. Everyone knows your movies. However, in 500 years from now, Jews will be on Mars. And when Purim comes, they will all go and sit down and they will read the same story in 500 years that we're going to read in 1 week. And those people, none of them will have ever heard of one of your movies. At that point, he quickly threw me out. No, just kidding. We're still friends. But anyhow, the point I want to make was that, you know, sometimes in the world we live in, we think things are very, very powerful and important, but they're not what's really important. The things that seem very small, those could be very, very important. You know, just a side story on that. I had another one of my boys was with somebody. I was in Europe with him in a very, very big business, blah, blah, blah. And this one person introduced another person to us. And he said, oh yeah, this guy is and I don't know why he did it, but he did it. He said, this guy is a multi-billionaire. And I saw the man was actually a little embarrassed. But that's how this other guy introduced this man to us. And my son, who was also very much involved in technology, he said, today, he's a multi-billionaire. But nobody knows what tomorrow brings. So those things which are really important are the things about what we do with our soul and how we grow. Now watch this. Okay. Sorry. Got to get ready for this one. In this story, Esther, the poor little Jewish girl whose parents were killed, and now she's forced to live with this king of the world, and she was told by her uncle Mordecai, do not tell them that you are Jewish. And she had to hide her identity. And everyone's trying to trick her so she would like accidentally tell her identity, but she was loyal and she did not do it. So all of a sudden, each time she comes and she asks the king for a favor, the king says, I will give you anything until half of my kingdom, which was a way of saying, I will not allow the Jews to build the temple in Jerusalem. Okay. All of a sudden, now, later in the story of Megillah, the Jews have now beaten around the world. They have beaten their enemy. And at this point, this is a page from the Megillah. Suddenly, it labels the 10 sons of the enemy of the Jews, whose name was Haman, and it says that these 10 sons were hung. And so this is made like a gallows, where the people are hung from. The 10 sons were hung, okay? You got to follow me. It's a little bit difficult, but this will blow your mind. So when it has the name of the 10 sons, afterwards, the story continues. See, I underlined it here, but I'll just translate it to you. Now the queen, Esther, comes to the king and she says, I have a request. This is the first time he does not say only until half of the kingdom. He doesn't say anything. He just says, whatever you want. Now think about this for a minute. Think about this. You're standing in front of the king of the entire world, the Persian king. He gives you whatever you want. What would you ask for? What would you ask for? Why didn't she say, let the Jewish people go back into Israel. Let us build the second temple. Let us feed all the hungry people in the world. I mean, you have one golden opportunity. What does she say to him? She says something that seems crazy. She says in here, she says, if it is okay with the king, allow us to hang the 10 sons of Haman tomorrow like we did today. What? That's what she asks for. They're dead. They're hanging. All 10 guys are like hanging dead. And she says, allow us to hang them tomorrow. Why would you want to hang a person who's dead? He's already dead. Why would you want to hang him if he's dead? And why is that so important? Okay, now the ride begins. We have a tradition that everything that happens in history happens 3 times. The first time it happens, it's in the Bible. The second time it happens, it's in the prophets. And then the third time it happens is in the rest of time. So the Jewish people's #1 enemy are called the Amalekites. The first time we fought the Amalekites They were the first nation to attack us when we came out of the splitting of the sea. Moses had to hold his hands up while Joshua was able to attack them. The second time we had the major battle with them is the story of Purim. And she knew that there would be another time that Amalek would come back again to try to kill all the Jews. And so she was praying that in the future, when this would happen again, that they would have the same success that they had in the first time, or in that time, let's say. Now watch this very carefully. I hope you can see this on the screen.
Yes.
If you see carefully, and you can open any Jewish Bible in the world, you will see the same thing. You will notice here, there's a little, in this letter, this letter, which is the letter Tuf, the last letter of the Hebrew alphabet, is written small. Can you see how it's smaller than the rest of the letters? Okay, so we have a small, if somebody has a pen, maybe you want to write these 3 Hebrew letters. You have the letter Tuf, the last Hebrew letter. And now we go a little bit down and down and down and down and down, up. And now we come again to another teeny letter. You can even see it doesn't touch the baseline. And this letter is Shin. It's the second to the last Hebrew letter. And now we're going to go down and down and down and down and up. Here is another little letter. It is the letter Zion. So you have Tuf, Shin, Zion. And then if you hear, whoa, here instead of a little letter, you have a big letter. It's bigger than all the others. And that letter is Vav. And by its being big, it's almost saying, put me at the head of the little letters. So in a way, you could do it like this: Vav, Tuf, Shin, Zion. What does it mean, Vav, Tuf, Shin, Zion? So Vav is the number 6, or the 6th millennium, or we would say the year 5000. So 5000, Tuf Shin Zion, is the Hebrew year. And don't worry, I won't leave you with the Hebrew year. It's 5707, because Tuf is 400, Shin is 300, that's 700, and Zion is 7. So suddenly, for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, nobody knew why there were these little letters inside the hanging of the 10 sons of Haman, coming up with a number 5707. Okay, here we go. Ready? Come the Nazis. World War II. We all know Hashem made a miracle and we're still alive, although some of us are stuck in Nigeria, but we're still alive, and we are here to be able to piss on Hitler's grave. Okay, great. Now, what happened when they caught Hitler and his men? Hitler had 11 top advisors. One of these men, if you could use that word, was a person called Goering. Goering was a man who would dress up in women's clothing. He was, if you will, Hitler's daughter, even though he was a man. And when he was caught with the other 10 leaders, he committed suicide. Now, Haman had 10 sons and 1 daughter. Haman, of course, is the enemy in the story of Purim, the one who tried to kill us. His daughter in the story of Purim committed suicide. His only daughter committed suicide, and his 10 sons were hung. Now you have Hitler's 10 leading advisors in the Nuremberg trials. The International Court found them guilty. However, there were many people who tried to save the lives of these Nazis, and because of that, it took months before they were actually sentenced to death. And because of this delay in the calendar, the Jewish year passed over Rosh Hashanah, and now it became a new year. Otherwise, it would have been the previous year. But because of these delays, it got pushed into the new year. The day that they were actually killed, the 10 leaders of Hitler were killed, was on the last day of Sukkot. That day in our holiday is called Hoshana Rabbah. Allow me for a minute. I'll read the English. It'll be easier. This is from the Zohar. What does it say about this holiday called Hoshana Rabbah? On the 7th day of Sukkot, Hoshana Rabbah, the judgment of the nations of the world is finalized. Sentences are issued from the residence of the king, meaning God, and judgments are aroused and executed on that day. This is what the Zohar says is the power of the day of Hoshana Rabbah, that judgment and execution comes upon the bad nations on this day. And because of all of the delays that occurred, the day that Hitler's 10 top advisors were killed and they were hung was on Hoshana Rabbah. Now, according to the New York Times that wrote about this execution, it says as follows. It says, the last of the 10 to be hung was called Julius Streicher. He had to be forced across the room to be able to put the rope around his neck. He yelled out in front of everybody, Heil Hitler. And then he said, and now I go to God. And then he said, he looked out at everybody and he yells out, Purim, 1946. This is the last words that Hitler's advisors said before he died. Purim. Why Purim? It wasn't anywhere near Purim. It was on Sukkot. Purim is on the other side of the year. Why was he referring to Purim? And not only that, not only were the 10 of them hung on the day of judgment, but what year was it? So let's take a look. Can you see here? You recognize these letters? Tuf, Shin, Zion. 5,707. Those are the 3 little letters that you just wrote down. Those are the 3 small letters where Esther says, in the future, may the 10 sons of Haman be hung the same way that they were hung on the holiday of Purim. So it comes to tell you, this is just a little of the littlest of what lies inside the Torah. And as you embrace this, and as the garments that we wear, we realize are only mechitzot, they're things which hold us away from God and allow us to let those things come down and our souls to come out in the joy of the holiday of Purim, to know that we are the ones who are still here and alive. that someday, God willing, we will be able to see that not just like this little prophecy came true, but all of the prophets of the prophecies which have not yet come true, such as no more weapons, and they will all be turned into tools of goodness, and a world where everybody will learn to live together and appreciate each other, and a place where we can dance together in the joy of the third temple in Jerusalem. So too, God willing, these will also happen. We just need to be patient. We just need to be patient and keep going forward.
Yes, so keep going forward.
All right, my wonderful friends. I look forward to Adam came back to say goodbye.
Not goodbye, but hello.
All right, everybody. God bless you and only good things. Bye for now. Bye-bye. Bye.